So you read that right. I tested positive for COVID-19, and I'm just shocked. I am confused, baffled, and really I'm only a little worried, if at all. I do have asthma, which is a pulmonary disease. This means I am immunocompromised because the virus does affect pulmonary systems. And the reason why I'm only mildly worried is because I do have some mild symptoms. There was some sneezing, but I think I attribute this to the recent spike of cold weather here in San Diego. I spoke with a COVID caseworker after I got my positive test results on October 22nd. I got tested on the 21st, and I got a result the day after. After about 15 minutes of boring questioning about my symptoms, my pre-existing conditions like my asthma, we determined that I am asymptomatic. Asymptomatic, I guess, because I don't have the severe symptoms like the loss of smell or the loss of taste. I'm not getting insane diarrhea, shortness of breath, headaches. Actually, I did have some headaches, but I'm pretty sure it's because I didn't drink coffee that day. Because I am asymptomatic, I really have nothing to worry about as long as I take care of myself and stay healthy. I do have state orders to isolate myself for 10 days since I got my positive test result, which amounts to I have to isolate myself until the 31st, until Halloween. Spooky. Now, I am fortunate enough to be able to work at home, but I will not be working until Halloween. I took the whole week off so I can focus on taking care of myself and just resting. I have my base, I have video games. It's going to be like the good old days of elementary when I used to have asthma attacks for a whole week, so I had to stay home and just watch cartoons and play video games all day. Now, I'm making this video just because I believe that you too have no reason to worry. I just wanted to share my testimony as an immunocompromised person who has tested positive for COVID-19 with no symptoms. And I feel like you don't really hear about people like us very much, so I figured I'd just be open about what's going on with me to lessen some fears, some paranoia. I'm going to address some things that you might have been wondering about. If you know me, you may know that I and my roommate/twin, Chris, have been extra precautious during this whole pandemic thing. Some may even argue that we've been precautious to the point of paranoia. Some of our household protocols involve sanitizing everything as it enters our apartment. We have 2 spray bottles of diluted isopropyl alcohol. We spray the clothes that we wore outside. We spray our shoes and leave them outside. After every trip outside, we take a shower. Even if it's just a 2-minute trip to the dumpster because we have to take out some trash. You might think that sounds ridiculous, but it's come to the point where it's like, I'm gonna take a shower, might as well take out some trash before I do that. Sanitation includes groceries. According to the World Health Organization, there isn't scientific evidence to prove that the virus is transmitted through food. And food packaging. But it doesn't hurt to take extra precautions and sanitize all of this food and food packaging anyways before it goes into the fridge or pantry. And that's exactly what we do. Now, I personally have only met up with friends really kind of once during this whole pandemic, and I'm going to go through that. Keep in mind, it was our ex-roommate who was visiting from out of state for about a week and a half. Now, it makes sense to think that I would have contracted the virus during this visit, but after their visit, when they got back home, they tested and got negative, so it's likely that I didn't get it from them. We did go to the zoo and meet up with 2 friends there during their visit. I've started to feel more comfortable with participating in outdoor events at this point. This was October 4th, if I recall correctly. And this was my first recreational activity since the lockdown started. Social distancing was actually pretty good at the zoo, except for the occasional mask hole, I guess is what you call them. You know, those guys that wear their mask like this, their nose poking out. But for the most part, people were pretty good. There were zoo employees that carried these signs that had like reminders of social distancing. They were patrolling most of the areas in the zoo, and maybe occasionally they'd have to say, "Please wear your mask, sir or madam." Kind of felt like kindergarten or something. Unfortunately, some exhibits were just too hype for social distancing to be a realistic thing. What comes to mind is Karen, the orangutan, doing her infamous rolling across the ground for 50 feet routine. This sort of thing draws crowds like a magnet. Many people moving closer to where I was. I always loved filming Karen doing the rolling routine. So people started to draw closer to me, and I ended up crouching a little bit like a scared monkey. Given that I haven't been around so many people in such a long time, literally about half a year, so some social anxiety started to kick in along with the usual COVID paranoia, which I had at the time. So unfortunately, I had to ask my group to move on to other exhibits without me. And I actually anticipated this sort of thing to happen. So I actually packed some pen and paper. I was planning to just hang out at the Colobus Monkeys exhibit to just draw them a little. The Colobus Monkeys have always been my favorite exhibit ever since the last time I went to the zoo. They were actually kind of hype too. Unfortunately, at some point I was just observing the monkeys, and then one of those mask hole guys was just went right up next to me and was all, "I'm observing the monkeys too." Actually, when I started drawing, I noticed that people started to respect my space a little bit more. I heard some kids say "Ooh, an artist." They're probably trying to not block my view or something. Overall, I'm glad that I went to the zoo. I got some fresh air, got to walk around a bit. Did I catch the virus at the zoo? Who knows, really? Every time you go outside, you're taking a risk. So it's hard to say. But if I did, honestly, this gives me reason to not be so worried about catching the virus. This zoo trip was on October 4th. It's October 25th right now, so after the average of 4 days of incubation period, I would have lived with this virus for about 3 weeks now. And honestly, I've never felt healthier in my life. I've been eating very well and exercising almost daily. More on my diet and exercise routine later, maybe. Since the ex-Loomies visit, I have made several trips to stores such as Target. They do have a mask-on policy for all employees and customers. I do try to follow social distancing when I can, and I always wear a mask when I go outside. But there's just some things that aren't in your control, like people behind you. Maybe someone tried to squeeze past me and I was reaching for something in a shelf. And it's really hard to prevent these sorts of things from happening or even remembering if they happened at all. I went to the laundromat where I did notice a group of about 5 Karens, I guess you'd call them, all not wearing masks. They're actually being kind of annoying and loud. Maybe I should have complained about them and earned them back. But I did have to walk past them to get my clothes into the dryer. I had to take my car to the dealership to get some recalled parts replaced. Their safety protocols were pretty good. All of the employees and mechanics were wearing masks. When I was talking to my mechanic, they all have their little offices, and in front of their desk, they have this plasticky wall thing. So what I'm trying to get at is that this is the challenge of living through a pandemic. We have to get things done. We have to go to the store to buy some essentials, buy food because we have to eat. And every single time you go out, you're taking a risk. You might catch the virus. Everyone has their own risks that they're willing to take, and I'm perfectly okay with that. You have to live your life. That's also very important for your mental health. Before I got my positive test results, I was pretty angry at COVID deniers, people who wouldn't wear their mask properly, who wouldn't social distance. But ever since going to the zoo, for example, I've started to feel a little better about everyone, feel more comfortable about everything, and I've started to be less angry. I'm still a little angry, but not as angry as I used to be. You have to take this seriously. I've come to realize that this is really an issue of bad leadership. The structure of our society just was not ready for this sort of thing to happen. For example, I live in an apartment that has a couple of laundry rooms. Each of these rooms have coin-operated laundry machines, and I cannot stress how difficult it has been to successfully just wash my clothes because of a coin shortage. We have the technology to make these transactions digitally, but we lack the accessibility. Bad leadership. That's why I had to go to the laundromat, where they have credit card readers for all of their machines. What a time to be alive, honestly. But at the same time, I'm starting to realize that these modern technological conveniences kind of show a class disparity in our society. And during times like this pandemic, these lack of conveniences actually evolve into a public health issue. We have the technology, but we lack the accessibility. And I want to address the possibility of me getting a false positive result. Apparently, statistically, there's a 5% chance that this could be the case due to technical errors. For example, my cotton swab accidentally made contact with infected materials like gloves, etc. Now, me and the roommates have been throwing around some theories, especially since my twin and current roommate Chris tested negative and I tested positive. Chris actually goes out more than I do, has possible contact with more people than me, because they usually do the grocery shopping while I'm working at home. So we thought it would be more likely for Chris to catch it than me. Is it possible that Chris actually caught it a while ago and eventually developed immunity and passed it off to me? Who knows? I am so confused. If you have any input on this, if you're like some sciencey person that could send me some links, please let me know. I'd really appreciate it. I feel like I don't even know any other people personally who have been open about having the virus. It's always been a friend of a friend, or a grandparent is very sick or something like that. I just don't know anyone personally. If you are watching this video, you probably know me personally. If you are so inclined, I'd really appreciate it if you could share this video so our mutual friends could possibly see this. I just want people to know that this virus is real. You don't have to be paranoid about it, like I kind of was, but you do have to respect it. I've taken precautions, but I've also taken some risks. In my angry moods, the phrase, "How is other people?" comes up in my mind a lot, especially considering all the COVID deniers and people not wearing their masks, etc. But like I said, I've come to the point where I'm not so angry at these people anymore. It's more of an issue of bad leadership. I'm looking at you, Mr. Orange Man. But their behavior is outside of my control. And all that I can do personally is what I feel is the right thing to do. So I'm sharing my testimony to tell you that there are things that you could be doing to help decrease the spread of the coronavirus. You can wear a mask and social distance. You can avoid indoor gatherings of too many people. Self-care, be mindful of your health, eat well, exercise. You don't have to be afraid of the coronavirus, but you do have to respect it. You could literally be saving your grandma's life. Thank you so much for making it this far into the video. I miss you all. I love you all. And I have to go to the bathroom. See you later.